Hello, welcome to my little channel that is growing kind of steady, and that's a little terrifying, but you know what? I'm trying to embrace it. I think sometimes it's hard if you feel protective over your ideas or um, over your own values, especially. It can be kind of, intimidating to put yourself out there in this way, but um, I don't want to live life in the shadows, right? So here we go. Hi, Grace. So nice to see you. So, yeah, the reason I wanted to talk about joy before I wind down for bed, I kind of have a headache right now, which is my please drink water and get some sleep body signal. Because for the first time in, sadly, a long time, I actually experienced joy today. I had a really long conversation with a new person today. And not only did we just kind of vibe on really similar frequencies, it was a conversation full of, I don't even know what. I don't think it was anything in particular about the content other than the fact that for the first time in a long time, I didn't unpack my trauma. And this may seem really obvious to people who don't identify as having a trauma history. I do. I also identify with experiencing ongoing trauma right now. I'm navigating it to the best of my abilities, but when it defines or takes up so much space in your past and present, it becomes a frequent topic of conversation, which is totally valid and understandable. At the same time, the more you do talk about it, the more it just becomes something your brain latches onto, and it kind of just perpetuates the physiology of trauma, which then in turn chips away at your ability to handle that kind of distress, and it just kind of feeds into itself. Our bodies like feedback loops, and they're not always to our benefit. So, I mean, that's something to be aware of, right? But yeah, so I feel like I know more what the conversation was not than what it is, without getting into details of the things we actually talked about. But I mean, I felt like I got a sense of validation. I felt like this person just enjoyed my presence for what it was, and enjoyed the things that I had to say, my humor, my ideas, and I also in turn appreciated about this person just as much. And I think my circle of people that I can actually have lighthearted interactions with at this time is really small, because a lot of people that I keep very close are also survivors of trauma. And that's for a lot of good reasons, because when you're a survivor of trauma, when you have multiple disadvantage points in society, it you kind of sometimes have to stick together in order to navigate the world. So I'm not holding myself with blame for doing that, but at the same time, the downside of that is that it can become tough to have experiences that, I don't know, push growth in the way that the sunshine downs on seedlings, if that makes sense. I feel like the growth that gets facilitated in my social circles looks a lot more like rainstorms, which are equally as important, but everything is wet all the time. And it needs a goddamn warmth. Hence the fun orange emojis, because I feel like this was also a potentially juicy video, and that was the fun pun there. But yeah, so I didn't want to make this little episode to reiterate vaguely what I talked about with this person, but more just also diving into a little bit the effect it had on the rest of my day. This is so cheesy, but because of how lighthearted and genuine, because I think sometimes you can have interactions that are lighthearted but not authentic. And like personally, I find that draining. While it's harder to have heavy conversations that aren't authentic. So I think in searches for authenticity, sometimes by default, those of us who crave authenticity or who can't function without it may tend towards the heavy, because that's where you can kind of guarantee getting it, you know? But like I just laid out, that definitely has its drawbacks. So yeah, I had this conversation. I even felt like my brain was jumping ship from idea to idea haphazardly, far less than it usually does, which I think really reiterated to me that for me is not a function of any, usually it's a function of stress, a function of exhaustion. So I feel like this particular interaction was energizing, and though I've had a lot of energizing interactions recently, usually I notice, and I want to try and help us all foster like body awareness, because I think that can sometimes be a clue as to whether or not you're, I don't know, acting in alignment with like your emotional, physiological needs, I guess. So, I mean, yeah, I've had a lot of stimulating conversations recently that I have felt a sense of excitement and maybe even happiness with. But I noticed this feeling, this physiological feeling of overstimulation, like almost as if you've had too much coffee. For those of you that are not caffeine people, maybe too much sugar. I mostly respond to sugar with lethargy, so like whatever. But you get the point. Yeah, and I think that is a very different experience than the nourishing, warm, strangely stabilizing experience of social interactions that bring joy. And another very obvious but kind of recently new to me sign that I actually got to experience joy today is that I've been just smiling so much more. It's been easier to do SI tasks because I felt like I've been having shameful interaction after shameful interaction that I walk away from feeling unsure of myself for many different reasons. And I noticed that shame carries out into executive function. So I will say, like, go to rinse a dish and wash it. I'll have the urge to, because, you know, I value cleanliness, and like the people in my household to varying degrees value cleanliness. And that was such an FE way to frame cleaning. Sorry. uh, yeah, so I'll go to do it, but I feel not only this deep sense of exhaustion and resistance, but also this intense feeling of like shame and disgust around taking care of myself and contributing to a household. And I'm not going to get into all of the different reasons why, like that needs its own video. But that's something that comes up. And I just noticed that because of the joyful experience that I had today, especially like through that like FE, give and take through that FE, reciprocity, the validation, the being seen. That similar aversion and repulsion didn't really come up for me today. And I just thought it was so profoundly interesting and moving that just one experience where not only did I feel joy, but I was able to access joy because it was socially safe to do so, changed so many SI details about my day. I had the thought actually while making food for myself that SI is happiness. That's maybe something I have to flesh out, and it's probably coming from like a biased standpoint, or maybe like everyone knows this except me because it's my 7th slot. I don't know. But I often feel like I have to remind myself that doing SI tasks, I guess. That doing SI tasks not only feels like a chore, but also I have to remind myself, I think, that these things are good for me, and that this is how one practices practical self-care. But it never feels that way. And I guess I just didn't realize how much of that was shrouded in shame. Because once a layer of shame was peeled back, revealing accessible joy, I was able to actually like feel in my heart, okay, that sense of self-nourishment, that sense of reward for my labor of taking care of myself. And through the joy of validation and the joy of just like fun, I've been really afraid that I, don't know how to have fun anymore. It's like, sorry, that was a lot of thoughts happening at the same time. I forgot what I was going to say. I feel like it was really profound too. Damn it. I'm sorry. But yeah, through experiencing joy, I was able to experience peace. And I don't know why I never saw the two as so related. Like I just thought that they were their own kind of separate flavors that maybe overlapped during times of mixed emotions or like just nuanced emotions. But I never conceived of joy being like a route to peace, if that makes sense. But I feel like I really saw that today and I wanted to share because I think that it kind of drives home the point that if we have access to interactions that give us permission to feel joy, and I don't mean I don't mean glee, like I don't mean the fun, the sense of play you get from teasing your friends or roughhousing with them, and just feeling a sense of like fun competitiveness or like social exhilaration. No. I'm talking about like actual open encouragement that occurs between two or more people. Yeah, I think that distinction makes such a difference, because once you're able to like access the latter, gosh, I'm having so many thoughts and feelings. I'm like almost losing myself, but yeah, it allows you to access those feelings for yourself. And I'm as much of a proponent as anybody else of like, you can't love yourself, or what the fuck am I saying? You can't love someone else until you love yourself. And I agree with that to an extent, just insofar as nobody is going to do the work of self-acceptance for you. Like, you have to be able to find that. But I think no person is an island. I think we're social creatures. And I think sometimes people can show us what that acceptance looks and feels like. You know, especially if you're an FE user and so much of your reality is the external emotional world. Or if you're an SE user and you get understanding through like examples living before your eyes, or I'm going to go out on a limb here, or you're a TE user and you have to see like the practical value in social procedure applications. I don't know. Yeah, I think that having that experience of acceptance and encouragement can show you how to do it for you. And I think that was, especially as an extrovert, you know, the missing link for me for months, maybe longer than months. It's been a hard year. I'm sure you've gleaned from some of my videos, but yeah, not to pedestalize like one interaction or one person, but also to give them fucking credit. Thank you. You know who you are. If you watch this, which you might. But wow, I feel like it just really opened a door, and I'm still so amazed. Sorry, I missed some live chat stuff. Grace said, so glad you've been experiencing clarity and happiness, at peace but energized. Yeah. I feel like joy is really a balance of exuberance and peace. Or like the dichotomy of I guess exuberance and stillness. It's almost paradoxical, but it works. It makes sense. I think Silent Grove also said something. I spoke to my therapist about external validation. It is necessary to experience worth from others as well as for ourselves. We are social beings. Yeah, exactly. I think it's such a conversation about balance, you know. On the one hand, you can't get all of your validation externally and never attempt to do so for yourself. But, you know, the reverse is also true. You can't only validate yourself with no external like mirroring of that, or you understand what I'm saying. And sometimes I think, not even sometimes, but I just think that to some extent humanity learns by example. We learn to do things by watching our peers, watching our elders, and hopefully as we grow wiser and wiser from watching our descendants. And I think socio-emotional examples of love, trust, all of those things into adulthood, however you want to pronounce that, are totally culturally underrated. And I'm here to remind myself, and I guess anyone watching this, that it's okay to seek that out. But if it's something you're having if it's something you're struggling to seek out, just pay attention to your body's cues. Some people argue that is SI. I guess it would be, because it's extracting meaning from like a sensory experience, or like organizing sensory experiences into areas of significance. But anyway, yeah. Sorry, I thought I got another live chat thing, and I didn't, but I think it's just Silent Grove and Grace with me right now. And I love that you're here. If you have anything to share about more recent experiences you have about joy, or further musings about it, I'd love to hear. I'm really trying to ride this wave. I love my best friend to death. I love them. But they're also having a bit of a hard time right now in very different ways than me, context-wise, but, we have personal similarities in how we process things, and I talked to them today as well, and I could tell there was a bit of an energy drain in comparison, because they're tired and dealing with a lot of stuff, especially like acutely right now, and that's totally fair. But I think it really highlighted to me the need we all have for balance between the heavy and the light. And I guess I hadn't realized how heavy I was on the heavy. You have a kind of an NI insight into something, but sometimes like immediate SE experiences really help solidify things you've observed externally or things that you've read. I think people talk about SE being a jump off point for like NI, but especially if SE is lower than your NI. But even though that's true for me, I feel like the reverse version of that also works, where like I kind of have a vague sense of something, and then SE comes in and is like, here's your vague impression on a platter, you're welcome. And I'm like, damn. Okay. So I just want to take this moment to be really grateful for the sensory world, for providing me with emotional stability. I'm so fucking blessed. Grace says, I think SI and FE may be more connected to happiness, and NI and FI more to joy. Oh, so using FE and NI together is still getting subconscious FI validated as well is great. Freedom from SI blind spot. Grace, you are such a smart cookie. I'm going to have to mull over that for like 1,000 years. Because that was really insightful and a lot of information. And thank you for sharing, because that sounds super valuable. But I'm not going to pretend like I totally get it yet. I think that's something I'm going to have to chew on for a while. And I'm like excited to sit with it, I think. So thanks. Yeah, I always appreciate other people adding their own spin on the things that I say. It helps us all grow, you know? Even now, I've had a few moments where I've noticed my subconscious try to sabotage this joy a little bit. Once when I was in the kitchen earlier, waiting for my food to come out of the oven, I don't think it happened in words, but just this kind of like familiar looming / reaching sense of emptiness and dread. And I was like, fuck no, I have no reason to feel that right now. And I just set a boundary and shut it down, kind of as if it was a whole other person that I was saying no to. And once I kind of had an experience that engulfed me of joy that felt very different from my inner critic, I was able to recognize it as an alternate voice and say no. Which is something I've been trying to do for so long, but that negativity, that criticism has felt so enmeshed in my me that I haven't really been able to until today. And this really goes to show that trauma is real, like PTSD is real, complex PTSD is real, and people's external realities affect how they use the tools in their toolbox, no matter how good the tools are, no matter how many tools they have. I feel like I couldn't really use mine until I watched someone else do it, or someone showed me, or I don't know what. But so many things are just starting as a domino effect to make sense, I think. And this is something I want to continue diving into, divulging, because I don't know, I consider myself fairly insightful. I guess as NI auxiliary, that's like a pretty strong core personality trait, cognitive trait for me. And you know, when you're a high NI user and you're just realizing some of the shit, like, and you have, I don't know, like FE or SE to help you, I can't imagine how difficult it could be, maybe not, it could be to arrive at similar conclusions without similar functions. But you know what, like, even if that's true, obviously functions different than mine have so much to bring to the table that I have never considered. And you know what, I think that had a lot to do with today, just because I'm so used to surrounding myself with people who are like exactly like me or extremely similar to me, and that offers a lot of protection, but at the same time, it also offers a lot of, I don't know if this is a real word, but stagnancy. And I mean, this is obvious to a lot of people, but you know, again, when you're like, to use sociopolitical language. And I mean, it involves sociopolitics anyways, like, fuck. When you're multiply oppressed, like, it's not always safe to socialize like a buffet. It's like, damn, I have so many foods that are trying to kill me. I better eat from my safe foods list. So it was nice to have an experience that not only was non-threatening, but that was like explicitly extremely nourishing. So again, person who's watching this, thanks for being cool. It really helped me with my day. And continue to just like be yourself at people, because you probably have a much more positive impact than you could ever realize. And I'm here to say it matters. I'm gonna cry. What the fuck? It matters so much. And I'm proud. I know you said you were proud of me earlier, but like, yeah, cool. Anyway, Grace said, LOL, I don't quite get it either yet. Just a sense. Oh my god, why does it disappear in 2 seconds? Let me start over. LOL, I don't quite get it yet either. LOL, just a sense I have that I am not fully able to explain. Yeah, that's a whole NI mood, my friend. My fellow ENFJ friend, perhaps. Hello. I'm raising my eyebrows. You can't see. Grace has also been someone that I've talked to that's like brought like a really sincere sense of lightness to many of my evenings. Yeah, and I'm always glad to see her name floating around these parts. Hi again. Yeah, also thanks Silent Grove for being like consistently interested in my content and having like engaging things to say. Yeah, it was cool to have you around a bit for my brother's interview as well, and I hope to interview more people soon. Maybe more like actual YouTubers, though. I think it's interesting also to mix that in with bringing people that you know from life onto the screen, or just onto audio in my case, your speakers. So yeah, I have a friend who is typed as an INFP, and I'm pretty sure is actually an INFP. I think I sometimes mistake INFPs for ENFJs. God knows I did vice versa for a while. To myself, I was like, yeah, I'm an INFP. So if I could get them to come on, they might not want to, and that's chill. But if I could get them to come on and have a chit chat, that would be really awesome. So if there's actually, yeah, I don't know a huge breadth of types of people, to be perfectly honest, but if there is a type that you'd be interested in, a fresh voice, if you will, of that type, I will do my best to scout someone out just for you. So yeah, Silent Grove says, for me, you're a voice of warmth and comfort. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so touched. I'm just feeling like, okay, I'm snuggled up right now. I'm feeling like a deep sense of cocooning, in validation and like mutual respect, and thank you. Wah. Yeah. Wow. I'm the worst at accepting compliments, but that I always appreciate positive feedback. I mean, who doesn't, right? I guess I try to be that, warmth, comfort person. I don't know. I think it's useful to emit the energy to others that you need so that it gets passed around like I don't know, food at a communal table, I saw another live chat. Welcome. Oh, yeah. I think that's a good note to end on. I don't want to go, but I don't want to ramble into oblivion like sometimes I can do. I have a hard time ending interactions, even ones that aren't that great, honestly. But in general, I do, because I want the I don't know, the FE stimulation to go on forever and ever and ever. But I'm trying to rehearse letting things go while they're still ripe. So I will leave you all with these surprisingly longer musings on joy. If you have any thoughts after this broadcast ends, yeah, as usual, let me know in the comments. Have a splendid evening, splendid morning, splendid whatever, wherever you are.